Why is aquascaping unpopular in America? Today we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to introduce you to a new aquarium that I've added here at my home. And this is an Imagitarium 13.3 gallon shallow rimless aquarium. And it's the perfect aquarium to showcase for this video because it resembles what we would consider the average aquarium used for aquascaping, being a rimless aquarium, but with an American twist, being a budget brand with imperfect silicone, not the highest quality glass in the world, and a $60 price tag. There's no other 13.3 or similar size rimless tanks that you can buy for anywhere near that price. So the way I've set this up is similar to how I do most of my no substrate planted aquariums. And you'll notice here, I use all kinds of aquarium plants. It's common in the hobby for people to assume that you need to use just floating plants or rhizomes in order to have beautiful aquarium plants without any substrate at all. And what you'll notice here right off the bat is crypts and cardinalis. So this was a top fin cardinalis tissue culture, and it came with basically three groups of plants. So we've got one here, we've got one back here, and then there's one all the way over on this other side. And similar to how I do all of the aquarium plants in my no substrate planted aquariums, I just weighed them down in this aquarium. And so I want to touch on that real quick because it often causes confusion for people to wonder how I grow plants like these beautiful pink crypts that you see in here without any substrate at all. The easiest way to explain it is that the roots on aquarium plants don't need to be the only thing that uptakes nutrients. Matter of fact, aquarium plants or aquatic plants are designed for the whole plant to take in nutrients from water. Even the roots, yes, the roots are designed to take in nutrients from the water, not substrate. So by simply weighing down any aquarium plant, you can very, very easily grow them without any substrate at all. Now, one additional point I would like to make is that I am the first hobbyist to ever think of the grand idea of sending off my regular home aquarium waste to have it tested professionally by a soil and wastewater analysis lab. And what you see here on the screen is the results of that test, which show that regular fish poop, snail poop, and shrimp poop in a home aquarium has all of the nutrients and minerals needed for beautiful, lush plant growth. So your plants absolutely in no way need substrate for anything other than simply holding the plant down. So that's what we've got going on here. If you follow the channel, you know that I'm really into doing most things in a way that most people would never think of or never try to do, especially when it comes to these planted aquariums. And this is a Stiphodon Goby tank. There are 6 Stiphodon Goby in here. I had them in a 40 gallon with about 200 Amano shrimp, and they were really getting out competed for food. But most importantly, I was having a hard time keeping an eye on them. So I'm going to be attempting to be the first hobbyist to breed Stiphodon Goby and document it in a home aquarium. It's never been done before, and these fish have been in my care now for a couple months. They all appear to be healthy and thriving, and we are getting some dominance displays by some of the males in here, as well as some breeding behavior, but I haven't had any eggs or little larvae born yet that I know of. So that was one of the main reasons for moving them to this aquarium so that I can keep a better eye on them. So now that you're up to date on exactly what I've got going on here and why, let's talk about why aquascaping is just unpopular in America. And to be fair, it may feel like aquascaping is unpopular compared to the vibrant scenes in Japan, South Korea, or even Germany. But I think it's more accurate to say that it's a niche and it's very structurally disadvantaged here in the States. Now, here's a breakdown of why the nature aquarium style struggles here in the United States and the brutal reality of high-tech maintenance. So why is aquascaping unpopular? The American hobby has historically been dominated by monster fish and cichlid keeping, kind of a part of the hobby that's driven by really two factors. And that is, first off, the bigger is better culture. Now, I think in modern times, we're starting to get away from that. If you follow my channel, you know that I have a ton of 2.5 gallon tanks. I've got some 1.5 gallon tanks, and I breed fish and shrimp in those tiny little tanks. Now, granted, I only have a couple shrimp in my shrimp breeding tanks that are 2 gallon. I only have a couple tiny nano fish in my tanks that are 2 gallons, but they're very, very easy to own and maintain. And the trope in the hobby is that smaller is just so much harder and more complicated. And even though your house is probably climate controlled, one of the top reasons they try to talk you out of small aquariums is temperature fluctuations. Like we have crazy temperature fluctuations indoors in America. So I think that the bigger is better attitude makes it really hard for some people to envision spending the money or the time to get into high-tech fish keeping in a larger aquarium because it's so much more expensive to do in a larger aquarium. So in Asia and Europe, living spaces are much smaller, and a 60 centimeter, basically 20 gallon tank would be a centerpiece for your living room. In the United States, especially as it's portrayed here on YouTube, what you see is basements full of aquarium racks. It looks like a local fish store in some of these guys' basements. Or they'll convert an entire room of their home or apartment to cram in as many aquariums as humanly possible. And so I think that it kind of comes down to that 125 gallon, you know, the 60 gallon being considered a centerpiece tank here in America. And high-tech aquascaping is exponentially more expensive and difficult to scale to these massive American size aquarium volumes. Now let's talk about the retail infrastructure. That's right, the big box stores. Now we love our local fish stores, but you cannot deny the massive reach on the retail end of these big box stores. So most Americans buy supplies at these big box stores, especially when it comes to aquariums just like this one. These stores sell basic plug-and-play setups, specialty aquascaping shops that sell premium Dragonstone, ADA soil, and tissue culture plants are pretty rare outside of major hubs like San Francisco or downtown Houston, Texas, or Orlando, Florida. So we've got kind of a decor versus ecosystem mindset that just like the monster fish tanks slowly over time changing into a more nano tank or at least mid-sized tank mindset, the decor is changing as well. And although we're just now starting to see within the last several years, these big box stores start to actually carry aquascaping stones. Now here's where things get interesting. What percentage of fish keepers in America can be considered high-tech fish keepers? That would be an aquarium that has CO2. Well, believe it or not, it's less than 5%. Of the millions of people who buy an aquarium in the United States, only a tiny fraction ever invest in pressurized CO2 regulator, high-power LED lighting, and specialized substrate. It's basically the 1% of the aquarium world. Now let's talk about the turnover rate, basically the burnout factor. The turnover rate for high-tech aquascaping is notoriously high, estimated by some veteran hobbyists to be 50 to 70% within the first 2 years. If a beginner jumps straight into a high-tech setup, they often quit because of the high-tech death spiral. So there's a honeymoon phase, massive growth, curling plants, beautiful photos. The algae bloom. This is where highlight, high CO2, and some mist fertilizer can actually lead to an algae explosion. Then there's a maintenance wall. Plants grow so fast, they require weekly or even bi-weekly heavy trimming, and eventually you run out of people locally to sell them to. Then there's the crash. A CO2 tank can run out, or it could have a faulty solenoid that sticks, or an end of the tank purge of CO2 that kills fish and melts plants. So hobbyists end up leaving because of complexity. Balancing the golden triangle of light, CO2, and nutrients is essentially chemistry and biology homework. A high-end 60 centimeter setup can easily cost $1,000 to $2,000, so cost is a major factor. When a $200 set of rare plants dies in a week due to a CO2 mistake, many people walk away. Then finally, labor. High-tech tanks are high metabolism systems. If you go on vacation for 2 weeks without a tank sitter, you often return to a swamp tank. So there's an increasing trend in America towards low-tech, high-yield tanks, basically high-end low-tech, using premium hardscapes or even just regular gravel, or in the instance of a lot of my aquariums that you see in my videos, no substrate at all, and skipping out on the CO2 and heavy fertilizers and just letting the aquarium waste do what it does. Now, right next door to this tank, which I wouldn't necessarily consider an aquascape, I just kind of arranged those rocks to give those fish a place to hide. You see exactly what I'm talking about here. We've got regular gravel. So let's move this camera over and we'll get a little better of a view here. This is regular gravel. And before you freak out about the fact that it's painted in rainbow colors, just know that this gravel was painted using a plant-based paint. That's right, it's 100% organic. And this aquarium, as you can see, grows plants like weeds. It's pearlweed. And if you look at the top, I've got tiny little baby celestial pearl Danios that aren't just any CPDs. These are long-fin celestial pearl Danios. I wouldn't trust one of my most rare breeding projects to just any aquarium. So naturally, a plant-filled aquarium is perfectly capable by even the most average fish keeper like myself, just simply using aquarium waste to fertilize the plants. No CO2 at all, and the lighting that I'm using, although they are fluval lights, which are considered by some to be high-end, they're definitely not budget lights from Amazon. These are several generations old, and they're not even the highest model of light. These are the mid model of fluval light, and I've got it over a foot above the aquarium, which means that these plants would probably grow just as well with a budget light from Amazon. So I think as time goes on and fish keepers learn more and more that you don't necessarily need to put your aquarium on steroids to grow plants, you can simply rely on the complete nutrient value of your fertilizer, which I must say you should send off your home aquarium waste to the one or more state level soil and wastewater analysis labs in your area to have it tested. And what I've found is if you can find a soil and wastewater analysis lab that's at a local college or university, they are very, very inexpensive. Probably even less than you would spend on fertilizer. So make sure you check that out. I hope you enjoyed the video and the discussion about why aquascaping and high-tech aquariums just are not popular in America. Stay tuned for the next video. We'll see you next time.